Happy Monday morning, everybody. I figured I'd start off the week with a what sold video. We're a little bit behind on those, but I know a lot of you like to watch the what solds or listen to my videos while you're working. So first thing Monday, hopefully you're being productive. Anyway, we're starting with eBay. We're talking about the second week in February. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a better week than that last what sold video that I shared with you, where things were so slow. I did notice that the majority of our sales happened on the weekend, and that's a pattern that's kind of continued throughout February and into March. Is very slow during the week and then like good sales on the weekend. So just kind of a new pattern for us that we're not quite used to. Okay, so we're starting with an Oshkosh, a vintage Oshkosh Bagosh toddler hat. Had the little boats pattern. I know that the Oshkosh little overalls, the kids' overalls in the unusual patterns or little novelty patterns are something to be on the lookout for. Some of those can go for crazy money. So this came from the bins. Cute little vintage hat, and it sold like overnight. It sold really fast. We got an offer, I think with a message. Someone offered us less, and then someone right behind it came and paid the full asking price of $18.99. And I think it went overseas. Next up was another hat. We did sell this one other time before, and it got returned to us because of fit. And then fortunately this time it went back out. This time only $15 it sold for. And it was just kind of a neat style. I didn't necessarily pick it up to flip. I wondered if one of my sons, my younger son, and it actually looked pretty cute on him, but he didn't like it so much. So we ended up listing it and sold it for $15, and it didn't come back this time. Starbucks mug, tumbler, stainless tumbler that was at the bins again, or the little clearance store, and it was kind of stained on the inside, but we just soaked it real quick. And sold it only for $13. Starbucks is one of those things some Starbucks can be really, really good, and some is just average. Only because it was stainless can sometimes do okay, and because it was at the bins was the reason we bothered to pick it up. And hopefully I won't be doing stuff like that this month. If you saw my video about restricting my purchases, we won't be doing those kind of purchases at the bins where we just say, it's cheap, we'll just sell it, right? So we're not going to do that so much anymore. So $13, it was coming at the tail end of that bad week that we had, that low sales week. This was kind of the slow start to the next week. And so we were like, let's just move things. Sometimes activity begets activity. And so we were fine with that. And Crabtree and Evelyn, we picked this sold really quickly. This we picked up at Goodwill. I think we were all thrifting as a family. We kind of have a little habit. That's not a custom. No, that's not the word either. Anyway, a little tradition that's been going on the last few weeks where Monday afternoon we kind of end up all at some thrift stores together. We might grab a bite to eat or something like that. So this is something I picked up on one of our trips there. And anything Crabtree and Evelyn, I've talked about it before. You can buy Crabtree and Evelyn online now, but I don't think they have stores. And I know they used to have it at like TJ Maxx and places like that, but I don't know if they still do that or if it's just online only. So I looked this one up. It was new. It's shave soap. It's a refill. There's another version that comes with the little like wooden soap dish, and that sells for even higher. We took an offer for $30 on this, and I paid like $1 or $2. So here's one of the items that I really thought I would get a higher price for. Freebird is a good shoe brand to keep an eye out for. I don't have the best setup to photograph boots. I'm not like very patient with things like that. And I just figured that there are so many Poshmark sellers and people like that who just throw stuff on the floor and they sell and sell and sell and sell. And so I was like, you know what? Don't sweat it. Just list it. And so I had these listed. And we were coming, we're coming to the end of winter. They're only a size 6. And, I would still pick up Freebird. And, these had a little bit of wear, maybe pilling. This part is fabric, But I just couldn't get that much attention on it. And so I got a $50 offer. I was like, you know what? I think we had a little bit of conversation possibly back and forth with the buyer, but I was like, you know what, $50 is fine. Let's just move these on because we're coming into spring. So let me find where it says Freebird. It says it on the sole. So it is definitely a good shoe brand to keep an eye out for. I don't remember. I bought these. I'm pretty sure I picked these up at Goodwill. I'm pretty sure, but it was a while ago, and I didn't list them right away either, so that's my bad. Next up is this Ex Officio wool nylon blend full zip vest. It was an extra large. This, I believe, came out of our that video that we did where we dug out all of the winter clothing that had been buried that hadn't gotten listed yet for this winter. And so we just kind of tried to list as much of that as we could. Ex Officio as a brand has a following. It's not super high money, but fairly solid, especially with substantial pieces. This sold for $30. Then next up, kind of a surprise, this little sale for $24.99 was this folk art. It's a saw blade that's painted and hand painted with these milk cans on it. And interestingly enough, it got sent to Hawaii. And there was a coupon running, so this actually did sell for $22.50. But we sent it out to Hawaii, and it got there really, really quickly. And they were super happy with it. Some kind of tropical plantation was the address. Next up, just a pair of duck boots. It's Cabela's. They were a fairly good size. Cabela's is it's not my favorite brand. This is a vintage pair of Cabela's. But I'm sure these came from our little outlet center from Mr. Pish Posh. And yeah, Cabela's doesn't get me very excited because it's a hard to sell for me on the resale market. This is a good brand to keep an eye out for. I'm going to pop the picture of the tag up. It's very simply, it just says the name of the company, Prairie Underground, and they are a Seattle company. And interestingly enough, I don't think I ever found it when I lived in Washington, but I found a couple pieces here in Montana, and they're kind of a log and look type company. This is a style that I might still be on the website. It's called a cloak on their website. It's a hoodie, kind of a hoodie cloak, and sells for pretty good money, their stuff. And I remember the other piece I listed sold pretty quickly. This took maybe a month and a half or so, and it sold for $59.49. I think that one I picked up at a yard sale. Now here was a good sale that we had. I picked up this clock a while ago, and I picked it up at a thrift store for $10. I bought it because this part here is brass, okay, but this face part here that the clock is set into is Bakelite. And I could tell that by looking at it in the store. And I did a quick search. I think when I was in the store, there's the picture of the results of testing the Bakelite with Simichrome polish. I'll show you. Here it is. Simichrome polish is what I use to test for Bakelite. So you put, it's a pink, what do you call it? A pink lotion kind of thing, polish. And it's a metal polish, but you put it on like a Q-tip as shown, and it's pink. And then when you rub it onto Bakelite, if it really is Bakelite plastic, then it will change to yellow, like you can see there. So I can do another video about that if you're interested. But it's like a nice way to confirm. There's other ways to test. We have just always used Simichrome because it's kind of like the industry standard, but there are other ways of testing I can talk about in another video. But I just buy the Simichrome polish on Amazon. I can put a link down below if you want. And it's kind of a nice, it's nice to be able to say that it's been tested, you know, that it really is Bakelite. But anyway, I looked at comps in the store and I couldn't really find any that were like that. And so I took a chance, brought it home, and then of course it sat for a while. And then Mr. Pish Posh was looking for stuff to list. I said, hey, or I think it got kind of put into a bin or something. I can't remember if I bought it before we moved. I don't remember. This like a year ago. And or if it's just been in a cabinet, but he came across it and I'm like, yeah, I know that really needs to get listed. And so he was able to test it and make sure it worked and everything like that. So he took care of that. We got it listed, and maybe, I don't know, a month or two or so, we sold it for $195. And yeah, it was nice. So we did the brand Le Coultre, there were other clocks by them on there that seemed to be selling pretty well. So we were kind of confident that we could get a fairly good price for it. But the price ended up being $195. And then I'm thinking, so we've sold this type of thing before. It's Nuance Dragon, Naturally Speaking is what it's called. It's like a voice to text type of software, kind of like a dictation type software. And I think we had picked some up at Goodwill before and sold them really quickly. And I think we found this at another thrift store recently. And Mr. Pish Posh got it listed and sold for $69.99. Probably minus the $7, so like $63 is what it sold for. Here is a new old stock vintage leather calculator wallet. So not something you think of people needing so much anymore. I just always end up buying stuff like this at estate sales because I just think they're cool. English leather, isn't that like a cologne or something like that? And this was like a promo thing that got probably a gift with purchase or something. But we only ended up selling it for like $10. I had it, you know, bought it at an estate sale and then didn't list it forever. And then finally we got it listed and we were like, let's just move it. And so I think we got a $10 offer, so we took it. Okay. Cross-stitch kit. The brand is Lanart. Just looked like a nice theme. It was made in Holland, and the deer or the stag theme was kind of interesting, and that sold for $23.99. We sold this clock for $25. Sold this beanie, Norway spell out knit beanie, kind of in the depicting the Norwegian flag there. Another one of our lovely clearance center hat pickups. Speaking of, here's another one. It's a visor. The brand is Huck, H-U-K, and it's a fishing brand. I think I've sold a few pieces by them, like a woman's performance top or something like that, but it's a fishing clothing company. And this sold for $20. And then this is the sale that kind of broke my heart. It sold these candle holder chamber stick style things, only sold for $50. I got these at a yard sale. I mean, I made money. It was fine. It was a fill a box for like 20 bucks kind of thing. And I just thought these were so cool. They were from the Tell City Chair Company. So like a furniture store. They still had the little tag on the bottom. Probably from the 70s. Very colonial kind of vibe to them. And it's from Indiana. Withered brass. Anyway, I did find comps on WorthPoint for like $100. And so I'm like, these are worth so much more. And so I think we did get a $50 offer a few months ago, and I was stubborn, and I was like, no, these are worth more than $50. And then finally, we couldn't sell them. We had them on Etsy. We cross-posted them different places. And I was like, man, what is wrong with people? So I finally let go of my pride, and I sold them for $50. I don't know. There's just certain things that just get stuck in my head like that. Does that happen to any of you guys? Too emotional. Got to get these emotions out of business. Grayson Golf. This can be a good brand. I have sold Grayson for higher amounts. I've sold shorts. I don't remember if I ever had pants, but I did sell some shorts. This one I think did have, so there's the logo. It's like a little wolf logo that you want to look for. And let me see if it had, oh yeah, on the sleeve it had a golf club logo for a local golf club in our area. So we took a $23.99 offer. This was just the booklet. Let me get a better picture. It's a booklet for the design for a needlepoint kind of thing. It's called Albuquerque Sunrise Teapot at Anthony Minieri Designs. And so kind of just like an independent, it's from 2001, kind of an independent needlework pattern designer. But that one was kind of interesting. It looks like a hot air balloon, but it's a teapot. And there's that connection to Albuquerque and the hot air balloons and things like that. And that sold for $18.99. That came from, I bought several booklets like that at our little clearance center. And so that was a nice sale for one of those. And then this is another clearance center item. They still sell these. I think they're from Boot Barn, and it's a boot jack. And so obviously living in Montana, we see a lot of Western things, but because it was at the clearance center, we picked it up. I should say Mr. Pish Posh picked it up. We sold it for $19.74. I don't know what they are new, but it was in really good condition. This is a little bottle stopper cork with a ring. You hang it on the ring on the neck of the bottle. And this was pewter. Again, Montana, we find a lot of horse-themed items, and horse-themed items can actually sell pretty well. We sold this for $38.99. It was in a bag with some other things at Goodwill, hanging on the wall. And finally, on eBay, that was it for that week. Okay, so my second really nice sale for that week was on Poshmark. So we sold this Xenia black leather and khaki twill reversible jacket for $200. Now this was another one of those where I did find similar comps, not the exact same jacket, but similar comps that had sold closer to $400. So we had actually started out the price of this a lot higher. Here, I'll show you the reverseness of it. So on the other side, it's just kind of like a khaki kind of jacket. Now, it was in really good condition. And here's my little tip for the week. If you don't see an obvious tag on a piece of clothing, one of the first things that I do is I look to see if it's a reversible piece of clothing. Sometimes the tags are not visible because once you flip your piece of clothing inside out, then you don't want the tag showing. So If you see that it's reversible, next you check the pockets. So it could be the pockets on the inside, or it could be the pockets on the outside, depending on which way the piece is flipped at the moment. But sure enough, I checked the pockets. I saw Xenia. I was like, no way. And the thrift store had it priced very reasonably because they did not find the tag, I'm pretty sure. And so, or they didn't know that name. And I got it on half price day. Most of the clothing I buy at that particular thrift store, they have several days throughout the week that clothing is half off, and that's because they price their clothing high to because they know half the time it's going to sell for half. And I want to say I got like paid $10 or something like that for it. It was not bad at all. So, I talked with the woman who wanted to buy it. She said, I really only have this much money. Like I said, we were coming off that really bad sales week. And so when she said $200, I said, how am I going to pass up $200 for this jacket? I'm not going to hold out for a higher amount. So certain things that I don't get emotionally attached to, I am willing to take a lower price. But I don't know, there's just probably it's more of a hard goods versus clothing thing that gets in my head. Okay. And then this was a pair of vintage red leather boots that were at Goodwill. And for some strange reason, they were not priced unreasonably. These are Laredo, made in the USA, size 10 women's boots. And they normally, like, their Western boots are $29.99, $39.99, $49.99 or higher at Goodwill. And for some reason, maybe because these were vintage or something, they only had priced them at like $7.99. So I bought those, and they sold for $50 pretty quickly on Poshmark. We actually sold some flatware on Poshmark as well. This sold for $40. The only thing that I double check when I cross post any kind of flatware over to Poshmark is it has to be under 5 pounds. Otherwise you have to pay extra you can go up to 10 pounds, but you have to, as the seller, have to pay extra on the label. And a lot of things I sell that are heavier might not be worth doing that. So I don't, I always check the weights of things before I cross post them. So this sold for $40, this little lot of Hampton Silversmiths flatware. And I sold this belt by Chico's. It was a nice wide red leather belt with a kind of a prominent button closure thing on the front. That sold for $25. Okay, and then the next 3 items, you have to ignore the prices. So we have this, because it was a bundle, a woman made a bundle, and then she just paid one price for the 3 things. So she picked out this pair of Columbia pants, and then this pair of Columbia pants. They were the same size. And then she picked out this smart wool sweater, and she made a bundle and offered me $90 for the bundle, which I thought was totally fair because the Columbia pants aren't worth a ton. And so the majority of the value comes from that smart wool sweater. So that was fine with me. And we moved 3 things at once. Always love that. And then Keen, and then the other thing with bundles, you have to make sure, again, with bundles that they don't exceed the 5 pounds. Otherwise, you either pay that extra or you can tell the buyer that you need to split up and make 2 bundles, and they can buy them separately. Sold this pair of Keen work boots, the smaller men's size, size 9, but those sold for $40. Then let's pop over to Ruby Lane. This was a nice sale of this Barbie case. It was Miss Barbie, so teenage version of Barbie, teenage fashion model, sold for $85. It was kind of more of a rare one. And I did have to, for some reason my shipping was like way off on this. It was charging way high. So something was going on with the calculator at that point. There's a little damage on the inside, but the mirror was still intact. And it was so interesting because this was at my thrift store, just on the shelf with the toys. And normally it's the type of thing that they would put in their case or put behind the counter. And so it was really weird that it was priced at like $6 or something out on the floor. And yeah, it was interesting. So not every Barbie case is worth good money, but some of the more uncommon ones can do pretty well. Sold this set of 5 plates for $50. They're cabinet plates, they're called. They were French, and they had these little mottos or little cartoons and like sayings. They just were really cool looking. So the woman was really excited to add to her collection of these, and they were made in France, as you can see from the bottom. Cré et Montero, as I butcher my French words. Okay, and then we sold these 4 round bowl soup spoons in the pattern Queen's Fancy, and I have Lion or Lion in the title, and that is actually International Stainless. It's one of their lines or sub-brands. It's called Lion. And Queen's Fancy is kind of one of the most common or popular Lion patterns. And so I had several. I've shown you some solds before in this pattern, but this person came and bought. I still have 4 more of these spoons. They bought one set of 4 for $45. We actually had a few sales on Mercari. We've been experimenting with cross-posting a little bit more to Mercari. It's not my favorite platform. And we talk about dropping it and just saying, forget it all the time. But then we sell some stuff. And so then we're like, maybe not. So this, we couldn't sell on anything else on any other platform. It sold for $30. And we actually, this week I'm talking about, and I think the next week, sold quite a few camera related items. And so anyway, so we were kind of like putting it together, like what might be the types of items that would do the best on Mercari, and just kind of save our efforts for the stuff that we think will do well. But we're experimenting because there's some things that surprised us. This didn't really surprise me. I've had these Fabletics leggings listed for a while. Fabletics kind of had a moment, and then they're not high value or anything like that, but I think I had picked these up because they were new with tags. And I just thought that would be easy, but I did know that I had heard that Fabletics did pretty well on Mercari. Certain workout leggings brands would do better over there, but still not for high money. But the only nice thing is that we cross-posted them and they sold within a couple days for $18. So better than just having to redonate, right? And then here's another one of those Skylanders Xbox One thingy-majiggies that Mr. Pish Posh picked up. That was sold for $21.50. So it's a different version. We had sold the other one, I think, for a little bit more. I also had 2 sales on Depop. This was a nice sale. This one actually sold for $42 and went overseas. Someone had asked me about international shipping for this, and so that kind of prompted me to figure out I have to put a flat rate for international shipping on Depop. And so I figured out what hats would generally cost me with pirate ship, and so I added international shipping to some of my lower weight items on Depop, and we sold this Montana hat. I think it went to like Ireland or someplace like that, but sold for $42. And then I was playing around on Depop. I had thought you could only send offers individually, but there is a way now, like if you open up your listing, it'll say, hey, people are liking this item. Do you want to send an offer? And it'll send an offer to all the likers on that listing right away, like all together at the same time. So I started playing around with that, and I sent out an offer of $9 for these Avon black cat face earrings, and they sold for $9. So, and then over on Etsy, Okay, this is the one Etsy shop we have. And I'm just showing you this one right here, this turtle, because for some reason when I click on it, or when I was clicking on it earlier, it's not showing me the listing. And it's doing that for every other, it's showing me the other listings, so I don't know why this listing isn't showing. Maybe Mr. Pish Posh deleted it or something. Now, this turtle, it's an Ikebana turtle. I had picked it up at Goodwill one time. I just thought it was really interesting looking, and I was going to figure out what it was for. So I found out it was a Ikebana tortoise or turtle, kind of like a cast aluminum. Now they generally sell for like 40, 50, you know, some can be bigger ones, 60, 70. So those are really nice price. Something weird happened with this listing. I don't know if something happened in the cross-listing process, but all of a sudden it was sold on eBay, and it sold for like $25. And so I thought, what did Mr. Pish Posh do? I didn't think he listed it that low. Like, I'm pretty sure I had sent him some research I had done on it. And so I asked him, and he said, no, he says, that's really weird. He's like, I don't know if a number got moved or something when it cross-posted. Because we looked for like the buyer using a coupon or something like that. But we had it listed higher on the other sites, and you know, but whatever. I paid like $2. We'll move on. We'll move on with our life. Then this other cheese plane by Spar from Norway sold for $16. This was kind of an interesting story. I'll just tell it real quick. But something was going on with cross-posting into Mr. Pish Posh's shop here. And he was only, for his international, somehow he ended up with only offering priority mail international, which is super expensive. And it also is like we can get a better deal on pirate ship. And anyway, so it was like, oh, so the buyer went ahead and he paid $16, and then he paid for the priority shipping. And so we're talking like $65 to ship this to wherever it was, somewhere in the UK or something like that. And so we messaged the buyer and said, look, sorry, there was a mistake. We can definitely do better, like $25 or something. We can ship this. And so if you want, let us know and we'll make the change. We'll do the refund and we'll just ship it, at the lower rate. Crickets, no answer. And it was a long weekend, so we let it go, through the holiday, never heard from the buyer. So we went ahead and shipped it priority international, and he paid $65 for a $16 utensil. Like, it just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. I don't even know. So anyway, I don't know if Mr. Pish Posh went through and fixed some of his listings on there or not, but it would explain why we don't have a whole lot of international orders. Okay, and then the last thing on Etsy and for the week was in the pattern shop, just this stuffed bunnies pattern for $12. So, as always, leave me a comment down below how, I know we're kind of talking, this was the second week in February and we're already into the first week in March, so if you even remember. But if you want to just tell me how sales have been going for you lately, like I said, ours are kind of up and down, slow during the week and then like really good on the weekend. Just interesting. And so let me know, or just let me know of a really good sale that you've had recently. That would be fun to hear about. So I will see you later on this week, and hopefully you are productive the rest of this Monday.